I get to test a lot of power stations, and for a long time, the EcoFlow Delta Pro has been one of the top choices. My name's Ben, this is the Minuteman Prep YouTube channel. I really like focusing on emergency backup power. It's one of my favorite things about emergency preparedness and prepping in general, because if you've got power, so many life issues are fixed. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have your food and your water and your security and all those other things. Those are absolutely vital. But one of the hardest to understand preps is emergency preparedness, which is where the EcoFlow Delta Pro comes in handy. Because there's no programming. There's no trying to figure out how to make these systems work together. No paralleling the cables and making sure the batteries are the right voltages and setting the right charge parameters. None of that. It is out of the box, easy to do. This is the EcoFlow Delta Pro with 2 expansion batteries. But I want to go over what I think is the ultimate long-term preparedness backup system here in this video if you were to go with the EcoFlow Delta Pro route. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now you can see I've got my other Delta Pros here, as well as the 240 volt hub. There are different ways that you can put these Delta Pros together. You do need 2 main units in order to get 240 volt power. This plugs into each one of them. They stack kind of awkwardly. There isn't a configuration that I have found that works well to have these all near each other without them being right next to each other. I was at one point able to use a smaller shelf and have the Delta Pro in the middle and then the expansion batteries above and below, and that was really stretching the battery cables on the back. I mean, it barely fit. You really are supposed to put it in a configuration like this. So if you do go with a shelf, you may want to have a smaller shelf, one that's not as wide. I do recommend one that's about 24 inches deep. And then you'd have a Delta Pro with expansion batteries on each side, and then another Delta Pro with expansion batteries on either side, you know, above it, whatever. But the real question is the Delta Pro with 2 expansion batteries better than a Delta Pro with 1 expansion battery and a dual fuel generator? Now, it really depends on where you live, in my opinion. Generally, I recommend 1 Delta Pro with 2 expansion batteries for 120 volt power, or double that for 240 volt power. One of the biggest weaknesses of the Delta Pro is the solar input. It has 1600 watts of solar input, but it's pretty much impossible to reach that. Now, hold on a second. You still can get 1600 watts connected, but in my experience, I have to use 12 200 watt panels in a 6x6 array. So that's 6 panels in one group, 6 panels in another group, but they come together in parallel. It's called a 6S2P configuration. And what that gives you is 2400 watts total, but you're getting close to the max voltage and max amperage for the input, because watts is only a result. Volts times amps equals watts. And for the Delta Pro, the maximum amount of voltage is 150 and the maximum amperage is 15. Now, if you go over on the voltage, you could damage the system. But if you go over on the amperage, it just doesn't let in more than 15 amps. So you can go more than 15 amps and not hurt anything. That being said, the ultimate setup that I found for the EcoFlow Delta Pro is 4 400 watt solar panels. They need to be rated at about 37.3 volts or less on their VOC, which is open circuit voltage. That's the amount of voltage coming off of the panels before you connect to the Delta Pro. After it starts running a little bit, that voltage will drop closer to about 123 to 125 volts. And with that, I've been able to get up to 1400 watts of solar input. So the real question is 1400 watts of solar input enough to fully recharge the system? And if you are at 0%, you have 10.8 kilowatt hours between the main unit and 2 expansion batteries, then it's not enough to be able to recharge it in a single day. That's where the dual fuel generator comes in. What this does is it actually replaces one of the expansion batteries. So you'd have 1 Delta Pro, 1 expansion battery, and 1 dual fuel. I only recommend the dual fuel, and I only recommend running it on propane. The reason is from a preparedness standpoint, propane is superior to gasoline because there's less gumming, it doesn't go bad, and it's much easier to store. You can actually get a 500-gallon propane tank that they come and fill up for half the price of what gasoline costs, and it just sits there. You don't ever have to use it unless you get into that situation where you need extra power out of the dual fuel generator. And then you can get an adapter to refuel the 20 or 30 pound propane tanks, which this connects to, and you can keep refilling those barbecue tanks to keep this running, and the fuel doesn't go bad. Also, sometimes propane is easier to find in a long-term emergency than gasoline, because most people are not going and getting the barbecue tanks from Home Depot and the gas station and so on. They're typically at the gas station pumps trying to get gasoline. So in my opinion, propane is the way to go. You have less BTUs per gallon than gasoline, but that's kind of besides the point. It's much easier to store and it's much cleaner burning, which means that this dual fuel generator is going to last longer between doing oil changes and other maintenance. This is very simple to use and it plugs directly into the back of the Delta Pro, and this is how you're able to DC charge this Delta Pro because of how the connection works with these power cables. So you could have the dual fuel generator kick on when this hits 10% and then turn off when it hits 60% or 80%, 100%. You get to set in the app what percentage this turns off. So I could have 1400 watts going into this, and then as well have this as a backup where it kicks on and off automatically as needed. So my full recommendation, if you were to go with the Delta Pro system, would be to get one Delta Pro, one expansion battery, and one dual fuel generator per 120 volts that you need. So you would double that if you need 240 volts. The other weakness of the Delta Pro is it will not charge from a gas generator or from an outlet for that matter if it's outputting 240 volts. The only way it will charge when outputting 240 is if you're inputting DC power only. So that means is that you can't charge it from a 120 volt outlet when it's outputting 240. The way that we get around that is by using the smart fuel generator along with solar panels, because then it's all DC input. So you can continue to output 240 volts AC power with 2 Delta Pros, 2 expansion batteries, and 2 smart generators, as well as 8 400-watt solar panels. Now, all of this can be found on the website, poweredportablesolar.com. It gives you all the discounts. You get all the same benefits as if you were to order directly from the manufacturer, but you get additional service and help with us at Powered Portable Solar that you don't have to wait in line to talk to someone. You get the help that you really need. The dual fuel smart generator, once connected to the Delta Pro, has an easy start button. So you're not having to crank it, but you have the crank if you absolutely need it. And better yet, you can still use this like a normal gas generator with just using the outlets on it. It doesn't have to only be used with the Delta Pro, but for a gas generator setup, it is the best for the Delta Pro. Now, I chose to go with just the 240 volt hub, which uses an L1430R receptacle right here, and then I use an adapter cable that plugs into my interlock switch, and that allows me to have versatility because I test so many units. EcoFlow also has their smart home panel, which is an automatic transfer switch. You pre-select which circuits you want to keep running, and then the entire system is automated and it kicks on and it runs those circuits for you without you having to do anything at all, and it does it in less than 20 milliseconds. So EcoFlow has definitely made a really smart decision in joining a dual fuel generator with these other options here, and you get the versatility of solar and fossil fuel, so that way you have the best of both worlds. Basically, your backup is already attached to your backup, so that way it's ready to go, and you can either do a manual transfer switch like what I did, or you can do an automatic transfer switch by getting the smart home panel and having an electrician install that for you. Now, if you want help figuring out which system or which setup is going to be the best for you, you can just shoot me an email to info@poweredportablesolar.com. That's what I help people do, is get the right products. If you already have products and you have some confusion on that, it's best first to go to the manufacturer and get help there. And if you need additional products to add to your existing system, let me know, because I'm going to be able to help you figure out which ones are going to work properly and stay especially within the right voltage so you don't damage your units. EcoFlow has given me very good customer support. When I call in, I don't tell them, hey, this is Ben from Minuteman Prep YouTube channel. Make sure you treat me special because I've got viewers and all these things. I don't do that. I always tell them that I have an issue. I never give them my information until it's the absolute last second when they're giving me a tracking number or something like that, some sort of label, if I need a replacement. They treat me just like normal. They don't know who I am when I call in, and their service has been very good. Definitely 2 thumbs up in my opinion, because many other companies out there do not have good customer service, and that is a big red flag to me. There are all sorts of units on the market. Just shoot me an email if you have questions. But the reason you need to be prepared now is because when the grid goes out, there's not really going to be any more options. Everything goes off the shelf like that. It is so fast, whether it's a hurricane or a flood or a fire, EMP threat, financial collapse, it doesn't matter the reason that you're trying to get prepared. Even if you just want to be prepared because you need some tax reduction, if you need to spend some business money to reduce your taxable income, whatever it is, there is a way to be able to use your money wisely to where it can benefit you. I personally run part of my house full time off of a solar setup, which in turn reduces my electricity bill, and I'm getting a monthly payback all on its own without having to do a grid connection. There are all sorts of ways to use these systems and get a return on investment. Is it the cheapest option for emergency backup power? No. But is it the longest lasting? Yes. And for me, that's what I'm after. I want years of repeatable success every day having electricity, which is why I think this is a really good setup amongst other setups, and then I can help you with that. So be prepared, make sure you have a backup power plan. If this is outside of your budget, then email me and we'll try to find something that is within your budget. Guys, thank you so much for being with me to the end of this video. If you found it helpful, smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I will see y'all in the next one.